is arable, is suitable for, yet we continue to see that sector. GDP, we're trying to look at the cocktail of factors. My guest is Mr. Ed of the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAWU, of TUC. He's also a lecturer. He just, mentioned that to me at the UCC. But Mr. Karaway, you didn't want me to mention that.
I'm a unionist.
He's a unionist.
Yeah.
Would rather use that title.
Yeah.
All right, you're welcome again. So, per the projection of the Ghana Statistical Service, sector will grow at an average rate of 3.3% from the period of, between 2016 and 2018. I mean, clearly, sectors have not long-held position, of being contributor to our GDP. Do we not just resign ourselves to this fate? Do we not just, in this dispensation is not agric-based?
Well, from the statistics, one can agree that agriculture is no more significant as it used to be in determining our economy. Because of the GDP, it has been trailing behind the other two major sectors, services and then industry. So looking at it from statistical point of view, one can agree that agriculture is not, or is relegated to the background. But it is also the case that when a country is in the trajectory of development, it sheds off some of its most important sectors at each stage of its development. Before we get to a middle income, when we get to a middle income or an advanced level, agriculture may not be the major contributor to GDP again, because agriculture is supposed to be able to shed off its role to manufacturing and then high-level services. That's why we can't continue. The type of agriculture we are doing now is because we are doing rudimentary agriculture, small-scale agriculture, more subsistence, more labor force is in the agriculture sector. Because we are using hoes and cutlasses, you need more labor. But when we mechanize, you could have one person controlling a huge tracts of land, and that you can see that the number of that particular land will reduce as compared to previously. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to see agriculture taking the back stage when a country is in development. But you need to accept this principle in context. In our context, are the other sectors making the type of growth that we need? And that is why agriculture is lagging behind. For instance, manufacturing is declining. We ought to have seen manufacturing going up, so that we now know that manufacturing is taking over from agriculture. And the labor force that hitherto was in agriculture will now move to work in industry, in manufacturing. But here is the case, manufacturing is declining and agriculture is declining. Now, it tells you that there is a relationship between the two. And that relationship is such that affects the other. No,
absolutely. Agriculture is inextricably linked to, all the other sectors.
The other sectors. But it's not the relationship it has with manufacturing. Differs from its relationship with the services sector. You see that our services sector is growing when agriculture is declining. When services sector, agriculture and insurance, what do? They are supposed to grant out loans and
credit facilities
and so on. Who do they grant out the credit facilities to? It means other subsectors instead of agriculture. Because there's no huge production in agriculture. They grant out loans, they grant out these insurance services to people to import goods that could hitherto be produced in this country. So they continue to grow, but they are not growing at on the back of the growth of agriculture. Now, manufacturing will also have to grow on the back of agriculture to a certain extent, because agriculture will produce the raw material for manufacturing.
Absolutely.
But in our case, our agricultural produce get rotten. Whenever there's a good harvest, we have rotten plantain.
Post-harvest losses.
Yeah. Are all the challenges of agriculture.
Yeah.
So the link is not good for us in the sense that it doesn't either exist or is very weak between agriculture and then industry.
But if we continue, to not pay close attention to the sector, to the agri sector, do we not risk being infected with a Dutch disease? In 2015, total budgetary allocation of 1 billion Ghana cedis meant that agriculture received the least share, right after capacity building. Does that also not increase a risk of being infected with a Dutch disease if we're not infected already?
Certainly, there are a number of things that can show whether we are paying proper attention to agriculture or not, and that is one of them. We are talking about allocation, and the allocation continues to decline. That from our budgetary allocation, we are having a certain view about agriculture, but we need to go beyond that and ask, why are we cutting the allocation? Why are we bringing down the allocation to agriculture?
Is there ever a good enough reason?
There could be, because one, if an allocation is agricultural sector, where does the money go? Now, if the money is used for just capacity building, and you think that you don't need capacity building now, you may need to take off that particular. Supports
this. We mentioned earlier before we came on air.
If you go to our constitution, our national constitution, and if you go to the directive principles of state policy, I think Article 36.3 states categorically that we must take appropriate policies to develop agriculture and industry. So that for the economic forward march of this country, agriculture and industry must be given serious attention.
Industry I can understand, but this is where I have my qualms about whether or not we let the law lead development, or development lead the law. If we've established, for instance, that it isn't necessarily an agriculture, I suppose that law is a bit moot or should be reformed.
Well, we don't have the law. The law does not say that agriculture is moot, but the law is seeking to enhance agricultural production. In fact, it does recognize that increase agricultural production with industry, then the development desires of this country cannot be achieved. So this particular law seeks to enhance and remind us and compel us on promoting agriculture and industry. Now, so the statistics that we have today certainly works contrary to the objectives of this particular article in the Constitution.
Indeed.
And it should be a working call to us that, no, we need to go back and see what we are doing or what we are not doing. Say that agriculture continues to decline and manufacturing also continues to decline. And whether this is not seriously injurious to our development objective of becoming an advanced country, of producing what we consume here, and then also produce enough to export and make revenue.
It's not uncommon to find agriculturists citing the United States, as a country worthy of emulation. In 2013, the agri sector in the U.S. contributed translating into $16 trillion, of course, attributable to this good policies. As regards policies in Ghana, what's our primary challenge? Is it the lack of effective policies formulated to meet our peculiar needs and challenges in the sector, or just the implementation of these policies?
Well, if you take the case of the U.S., because they don't subject themselves to the dictates of any institution or bilateral partner to tell them what they should do with their policy. But in our case, we depend heavily.
Yeah, all of these, yes.
We depend heavily on the
dependency
advice,
issues we have.
Heavily on IMF, World Bank, and other development partners to tell us what we should do.
But you see, I have to cut you here because I remember in 2011 or 2012, then Minister of Food and Agriculture, Kwesi Ahoy, rolled out a plan. It was METASIP. It was acronymed METASIP, Medium Term Agricultural Investment Plan. Yes, that was to cover the period between 2011 to 2015. You know, under this initiative, government sought to expand irrigation infrastructure, subsidize fertilizer, seed costs, you know, basically make agriculture attractive to the youth. But within that same period, there was a dip, there was a decline in the contribution of the sector to GDP.
Well, the plans are...
So the intentions are good, the policies seem to be the best, and yet working them out is problematic.
Policies are good, and a good policy would be good when the implementation is also good. Okay, so
I have to go now, and so I'm rushing you. What do you make of the one factory per district policy in Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo seeks to?
In my view, the building more factories for this, but I'm not too sure whether it is the way forward to have in every district a factory. You know, what we need to do is to have factories in every region close to the people to keep jobs away from, to keep the people away from running into the cities. Now, if we revive all the defunct factories and build new ones, it does not matter whether each district has got it or not. If you look at it from the point of economics, you know, if the factory is too small, it may not be able to benefit from large scale of economy because the cost of production will be too high. So it may not even be feasible.
Okay, our time is up now. But does this skepticism come to bear on the recent revival of?
As getting our focus now,
we
know that we cannot do without manufacturing, so we are reviving the. More of them should come, you know, and you can see that the MPP is saying that they will build in every district. That's a good idea, but we need to caution and do things right, because it's not just about every district having it. That would necessarily take us off. But we need huge and profitable industries.
Thank you. We should do a part 2 of this. There's so much more to look at. But thank you. My guest, unionist Edward Karawa, General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union of the TUC. You're watching New Day.